So next point, Commission's point 5, Ethics Commission. 89 is the annex. Mr. Rivello, do you have to add something to this or to explain something that maybe is very difficult to understand? Don't read everything.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think everybody knows this year was a very busy year for our Ethics Commission, and even more these days in Istanbul, we were engaged at least on 3 different fronts. I just would like to underline some points. Well, the report here that you have is just a report of 7 pages, but it's not all the report. This is just because as annexes to this annex there are also all our decisions. But bear in mind that only the decision on the French team case was more than 25 pages long. It was difficult to join all our decisions. So some decisions were published on the website in the last month, I believe. The other decisions, I think, will be published together with the minutes of the proceedings of this General Assembly. Well, I mentioned 3 different fronts. The first one, for sure, are the cases we had to decide. We took some final decisions on some quite important cases. For instance, on the case French team, I have to underline that current practice is really complicated in front of the Ethics Commission, because in the past, I think Ethics Commission had not to match real professional antagonists, but today all defendants and all complainants are supported by very professionals, by many legal professionals, very good lawyers. I think for me it was more or less easier to discuss statutes here these days than all these issues during our different cases. Well, in case I don't want to spend many words about this, I just like to remind that given probably our work, I think our professional work, still now we never had some appeal in front of the CAS. So, for instance, even after the French team case, the time limits to appeal in front of CAS is expired, so now this decision is final. At least it's final for FIDE. Maybe there will be some other judgments in front of the national judge in France, but for FIDE it's a final decision. For the French team case, we informed the presidential board of our decision, and probably the presidential board have to assume some decisions concerning the ranks of the last chess Olympians, the ratings of the players involved in the case. Well, you can see here that we, in many cases, you can find that we decided that they were not admissible. I don't want to remind here our complicated jurisprudence, our guidelines, the difference about complaint, report, and so on. But well, I think it's very important to limit even our jurisdiction. But well, now we have a new statute, so a second front we were involved in these days was exactly in drafting of the new statute. We proposed many things in the past year, probably you remember, and some ideas were accepted by the presidential board, by the General Assembly. I just would like to remember that the same idea of the Electoral Commission was our idea, and now was approved and was considered by all the parties as a good idea. But well, particularly for what concerns Fides Commission, now many things are changed. Because probably few among you paid attention to this part of the new status. But this, the new status has changed our competence. From one point of view, has restricted our competence, because has enlarged the possible competence of the National Chess Federation. For another point of view, our competence has been enlarged, because now we have competence even on the interpretation of the statutes. I would like to focus on the importance of the first point. Yes, now our competence is a little bit restricted, but well, if a chess federation want to give us an appeal competence, this way it will be possible to give to the first instance decision by the competent supposed organs of the National Chess Federation a worldwide application if it is not appealed in front of the Ethics Commission. So I think it's a revolutionary concept a little bit. In this moment it's not mandatory, so it will be necessary for a chess federation to accept this appeal competence of the Ethics Commission. But if a chess federation will accept, their decisions will be immediately applicable all over the world, or at least among all FIDE members. I think this is a quite important point. But well, so just invite you to pay attention to this, and I think it's important to ask the majority of chess federations to accept this appeal competence. Our work on our rules isn't finished, because now we have a new status, but still we need many other new rules, particularly for what concerns our commission. We need to reform our procedural rules. I know that many sometimes are not so happy about the times of our decisions. But well, from one point of view, this is linked to the guarantees that our real fair trial, probably not exactly used, exactly correct to use the word fair trial, but all possible guarantees are applicable to the defendants in our cases. This, I think, is important. But well, we need to reform our procedural rules. I think this will be an important job for the following years. This is a task we can be considered as competent. But for a real reform of the FIDE Code of Ethics, I think we need to obtain discharge from the Presidential Board or from the General Assembly. So I suggest that probably it would be useful to create a commission that could be including members of the Ethics Commission to reform the FIDE Code of Ethics. We know there are many problems about sanctions, about rules, and so on. Very, very final points, and after we have some questions, I will happy to answer them. In some of our cases, many cases concern the problems of sanctions by a chess federation that don't concern violations of FIDE Code of Ethics, but other federations, other violations that are relevant only at the national level. So a couple of days ago, the Deputy President of FIDE asked us to give an advisory opinion on this point. Well, we tried in a few days to draft this advisory opinion. I think it's a complicated problem, but just a couple of notes. It's important to distinguish between sanctions for violations of FIDE Code of Ethics, sanctions that can be imposed by a national chess federation or by the Ethics Commission. In all these cases, the final competence could be only of the Ethics Commission. So, for example, if a national chess federation, even in the future, don't want to give an appeal competence to the Ethics Commission, well, their decisions are valid, but are valid only in their national territory. If a player that is sanctioned go to play abroad, well, this sanction cannot be automatically applied, and there can be no consequences for what concerns is title, the rating of a player. But well, it's fully possible for another national chess federation to accept the validity of this sanction. But this becomes his national decision. Well, in all these cases, if the sanction concerns a violation of the FIDE Code of Ethics, there are no great problems, in particular with the new FIDE status. But more complicated is the case I mentioned before, when the national sanction is not linked to a violation of FIDE Code of Ethics. What can happen in these cases? Well, our opinion is, again, this sanction is valid only for this particular country. But a player, well, at the beginning is registered for this country, so probably can continue to play, but only for that year. The following year is not registered, so his rating have to be hidden, not deleted, because a national sanction can affect the title and the ratings, but have to be hidden. Can this player, for example, ask to another federation to become a member of this different federation? Well, in some cases, yes, but there is a problem. Currently, we have some rules where it's written that to be registered for a federation, you need to be or citizen or resident in the territory of a given federation. So, probably for the current rules, this could be forbidden. So, possible idea could be to modify this rule, but for the current situation, there are, I think, no easy solution. At least for the first year after the sanction, I think the problem is a little bit less complicated. So there is it continues to play if he is registered by a federation. There is the problem of the name of the country and the flag. In our opinion, the name of the country is linked to his citizens, and so can be saved. But the flag is linked to his national chess federation. So possible idea could be that this player can play, but without the flag of his national federation that suspended him. Well, there are other cases concerning a player, the differences between a player suspended and a player expelled by National Chess Federation, but I don't want to add other words as Marco told us before. These are all questions really complicated. So I just can invite you to read, first of all, our judgments and to think about the best possible implementation of the new status in your National Chess Federation. Thank you. Can I ask if you have a question?
Please. Question.
This advisory was, Mr. Chairman, this advisory was submitted just half an hour before to us, and this particular subject required extensive discussion and lot of discussion among players and federations, member federations. I request you to treat this matter, or we discuss this matter maybe in the presidential board first and then go for this.
normally with regards to ethics, obviously any questions you have of the Ethics Commission, you can ask them. But it's something that we, as FIDE, try and let them do their own job. We don't interfere with their work. We let them get on. If you have any questions later, I think if you have any questions here, you can answer. If you want to have any questions later, Mr. Ravello is here, so you'll always be able to ask him.
Thanks. I'd just like to ask some questions. It's actually for the presidential board, really, and it's relating to the first case here to do with the French team, Sébastien Feller, Mr. Bouchard, and so on. And first of all, I'd like to congratulate the French Federation for doing a magnificent job in pursuing injustice. Actually, to their own detriment, they deserve to be thoroughly praised for taking a firm moral stand. So, congratulations there. Also, congratulations to the Ethics Commission on their judgment. However, there remains one last outstanding business, and it refers to the Olympiad in 2010. Well, among other teams, England played against France in the 2010 Olympiad. I know, I was playing that day. We should have won the match. I won the match. I won my game. David Howell lost to Sébastien Feller, or he lost to Ribka or Houdini, I don't know which. And in other sports, when you have a drugs cheat and they're found out and they're proven guilty, then you immediately strip them of their medals and you annul their results. I'd like to ask when Presidential Board is going to annul the results of Mr. Feller, and are we going to see a new table for the 2010 Huntington system?
Interesting idea to change the results of 2010 Olympiad. This is interesting. I will tell you what has been discussed in the World Championship and Olympiad Commission. We thought that, first of all, of course, he won a gold medal on his board, and we are on the opinion. We addressed our opinion to the board, to the office, that he should give back his medal, and he should give back the money that he got. As you remember, there were prize money for board. So FIDE should demand from him to give it back, medals and money. However, for your question, we found out that it is illogical and impossible now to go to the Hunty-Mansijsk results, starting from first round, change the result, and then you have to change the pairing, and you will do everything from the beginning. It's impossible to do it. We cannot do it. So therefore, results must stay. But of course, personal, what I mentioned will be of course impossible.
Sorry. Ask the call will give you.
Okay. Do I have permission to speak? Okay, thank you. I'm delighted to hear on your proposal so far, but unfortunately it isn't enough. Matches were won by cheating. And, those results stand in the record book. Not only that, ratings are affected. So, it's not sufficient to take away a medal. You have to go back. I understand the point about the parents. Logically speaking, if one were able to do this, one would change all the parents. But I'm proposing that the results of Mr. Feller are annulled and he scores 0 in each of those matches, and the matches are recalculated and the final standings on the which, you know, France has obtained their high standing on the basis of cheating. And that has been proved incontrovertibly. So I ask the Presidential Board to make a firm decision on this, because if you don't, you are simply abiding by cheating. You are not imposing a sufficient deterrent.
Jeffrey.
The issue is just a little bit more complex than maybe Nigel is pointing out, because of course, yes, you could nullify the standings of France. The question is whether you would reward the opposing nation as well. Because there is one opinion where you could just nullify Feller's results and not give the plus to the, let's say, English team or whoever he played against. And in that case, of course, the English team and any other ones would not distort the standings more than just basically distorting the French team standings. So it's a bit more difficult than just saying, yes, Feller gets 0, but does his opponent get a 1? Or do you leave the opponent as is? Because this is also another difficult argument. You will have a distortion of results, because teams which will have played Feller in round 5, 6, 7 will now artificially get a different standing based on the fact that they would have won and they would have had a different period. So I would say the other option is just to nullify Feller's results. This is clear, that's a non-discussion. But the real discussion is whether you would actually give the opposing teams the advantage.
Mr. Markopoulos, please.
No, Mr. Thomas, please, and then...
Thank you. While I understand that it's extremely difficult to reimpose a result for the team championship, while I share the opinion of Nigel, I understand the proposal of Jeffrey is very good. But reimposing the individual results are easy. And I know that Czech Federation, Polish Federation have already written to feed that, to re-establish the result on the boards, because those affect our federation, and one more who had the 4th place. Because we have 2nd and Czech Federation had 3rd. And that is easy to re-establish. And
This has been done. This will be done.
Oh, it will be done. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ali.
For me, thinking logically, we should check, for example, to change the pairings, all those things are impossible, because for example, assume that a football team is playing for World Cup, they are passing the group, they are passing the semi-final, and then they come to final, and one of the players of the team caught by doping. So you cannot change the group results or the semi-final results. I don't know what FIFA is applying for this, we should check. But it's very logical to check the final standing only, not to go back and maybe to think about for the distribution of medals. I believe at least this is a lesson for us to create for such a situation for the future, a kind of procedure. It's very important, because I understand that there is not enough procedure. Maybe Mr. Rivello can answer, to deal with such a situation, how to manage it. It can be a legal issue, we cannot find a pragmatic solution. Therefore I advise, for the future at least, let's check, because chess is on one side individual sport, but on the other side, as many people mentioned, it clearly affects the team results. We should check what the others are doing, and then we can find a solution, and we have to apply and implement to our ethical codes as soon as possible for the future. That's my opinion.
Mr. Batista.
Now I want to thank Nigel and the Assembly for our sustain. You know, it was terrible for the French Federation, but I think for all our family. But it's not specific, I think, the French Federation. It's a problem of the nanotechnology. I don't know, it's, the nanotechnology is for us like for the cyclism, the drug, and it's a very big problem. Nevertheless, we agree with all the decisions of the Assembly. I think there is a big problem for this Olympiad. I understand your request, but what I want to say is not the French team case, it's the Feller-Auchan case, because the first victim are Václav Graf, are Christian Bauer, are Romain Edouard, are Etienne Bacot, who are playing. It was a catastrophe for them, for all, and sure, it's necessary to change the terms, because they are very, you know, that dignity about the term French terms is not right. Huh? Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, Mr. Fogg. No, back. Okay.
I've seen the advisory of Ethics Commission. I believe the Mr. Chairman wants to discuss it right now. There are 2 points. One is that if National Federation take action, that rating and title will not be effective.
This is a different subject. Let's finish the Feller subject. Mr. Fox at the back.
I was also moving on.
Okay. Mr. Dobrytinian.
There is an ethical commission member.
Yes, thank you. So the case is very complicated if we take into account all the details. Of course, it's hard to find a complete decision and the right covering all the aspects. Because we, if I well recall, in our commission, we didn't take into account into how many games he did cheat. So we had some testimonies, some proof. So we really don't know in how many games during the Olympiad he did cheat. So this for taking into account to change the result of or to give to the opponent team some points.
Thank you very much.
I think in the team competitions back in 2004 Olympiad, there was almost a similar situation that the action has to be taken against a player, but it was not in such cases, but it was that the player did not agree to go for anti-doping. And the committee then decided to take away all the points that the player has scored, and the final standings was recalculated. May I suggest that the General Assembly appoint the chairman of the Rules Commission, the chairman of the Arbiters Commission, and me to make a recommendation either tomorrow or the next meeting.
Thank you very much, Stuart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's one rather simple thing to do as far as I can see, and I'll choose the English player who was disadvantaged. His rating, since he lost the game, had he won it, his rating would have been 10 points higher. That 10 points can be given back to him. It doesn't affect the standings, it just affects him. And it can be done for all the games, if it's wanted, that Sebastian played. Ignatius' idea is also very good, but I'd just like to add that into the possibilities. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, Israel before explained what is the position of the World Championship Committee. That, of course, if we know the games that the guy he should lose these games. To affect the final standing, this is a very serious problem, because how you can understand when you are winning a match instead of losing. Let's say Greece, we played with them we lost, but because of this point we win, we will play a much stronger team in the pairing system. So it's not clear that at the end the standing will be the same with what we had. So to go and award the points in the last after the last round, the points that you are getting many rounds before, except it was